Finding Rose has become more of a symbol of, through life, in order for this beautiful flower to bloom, it does require getting through some thorns.
This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good afternoon, Bernadette Slowey. Wow, Berni has been on the podcast now twice. First, we had a conversation, which was in 2016, November, and then we got to connect again face to face on the 19th of July for a recorded conversation that we shared, and I got to meet her, both myself and Amanda. Today, it's October 2019, and we're connecting again to see where she is in life. Berni, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's so great to reconnect with you, Angel.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. I think what really solidified the relationship was that one meeting that we didn't even record our conversation, but you came across. I think you were tired. I remember you were tired, but you still came across at Liz, and we had a conversation on her patio there in the back there. It was such a great conversation, the enlightenment. So I really do thank you for walking the talk and again getting to meet your family. So what's the latest? Like, what's the update?
Oh, wow. Okay. When we last spoke on my patio, I was still just on this high from my first film experience, Berni's journey. And I talked about how that film project really taught me about how making a movie was really in alignment with how we are to live our lives. Well, this is the amazing thing that has occurred since. I'm on a second movie project. It is called Finding Rose, and it is about my missing sister that was only 2 years old when she was lost on the streets of Saigon during the Vietnam War. And I was 4 years old. And I remember my aunt looking at me and being very upset that it was my fault that I had not paid attention to her, because we were always told that she was abducted that day and we never saw her again.
That's a story that burned in my mind, right? Possibly because I'm the oldest in my family, and to imagine having to leave someone behind, I felt it. How are you going to share that story, and how are you going to connect that pain into how something good could come from it?
Well, this is the amazing thing. So ever since I was 4 years old and carrying this guilt and not really even understanding why, but it was something that had shaped me for the rest of my life. And so on December 16th of 2018, my cousin had called me and said that there was an email that he received from a woman who was looking for her family. She was maybe 2 years old, lost on the streets of Saigon, and was searching for her family, and particularly if there was a serviceman that maybe served in Vietnam. And the way that she wrote that email was literally the same way that I described the story of my sister missing on the street of Saigon. I just knew in my core, there is no way that someone could almost use the same verbiage to tell the story of that she was missing as a 2-year-old on the streets of Saigon. And in that same day, when I found out about my sister reaching out to my cousin, I spoke with her within 12 hours, and she'd been missing in our lives for 43 years. I still get chills talking about it because it is such a miracle. And because of the technology of DNA and these mail-in tests, for $99, you can locate missing family members. And I just can't believe, and I do believe in miracles. It's just amazing. And the unfortunate thing that happened, though, was that my mother passed away in 2012. And so my sister Rose, she didn't get a chance to meet our mother, but she did meet myself and our 3 other siblings who just fell in love with her and are just so grateful that she's in our lives.
And of course, now, by extension, like your children, right? Like there's another generation that she gets to meet as well, right?
Yes, and she's already a wonderful aunt. I love her children. She has been to visit, and we've been to visit her in California. She actually was able to come to the United States as part of the Homecoming Act. But it is pretty amazing that circumstances of what we've learned as a result of coming back together, which is the reason for my second movie project, Finding Rose.
Yeah. How is that story going to be told? From the lenses of Rose or from the lenses of Berni and her experience? How are you going to incorporate the stories?
Yes, because Finding Rose was the name that I gave the movie back in 2012 when my mother and I thought we were going to go to Vietnam and pursue a movie project in search of Rose because my mother really wanted to find her. But because she died, I thought the story died with her. So Finding Rose was going to be about finding her. And now it's really about Rose finding us,
Hmm.
keeping the same title. But what we're doing is really it's through both of our perspectives.
Hmm.
So we actually went to Vietnam in June of this year, 2019, so that she could meet her birth family. And I had a film crew ready at the airport for the
Wow.
reunion. And then we also interviewed family members so that we could find out what happened that day. But what was really interesting in all this is that my father, still to this day, has never met Rose. And that prompted a lot of questions for me about why he was so reluctant to meet her. And in fact, has already burned that bridge with Rose. And so they do not have a relationship. And she has decided at this time that she does not want a relationship with him. So
Hmm.
that adds a whole nother element to this story.
Yeah, it sounds like the part two has already been created, right? In terms of where people's curiosity goes. I'm intrigued, Bernie. Do you believe that in the midst of things, it was a requirement, if you will, the healing that occurred with you almost naturally from making decisions where, you walked away from 20 years of being an executive in banking, you walked into India, again, decisions that were made. Do you think that that as well contributes to the attraction then, or the power of the unknown to connect all of this?
Oh, Angel, you hit the nail on the head. I absolutely do. I really feel as though Bernie's journey was what was the catalyst that has brought this amazing miracle to my life.
Hmm.
This story is really about my sister and I meeting up together again. My mother, obviously, being on the other side, was very instrumental in orchestrating our reunion. It was such an incredible reunion, so beautiful. It was recorded on a news station who actually did a segment, and it's absolutely heartwarming and moving. And so when we went to Vietnam, what we've learned through this beautiful reunion is that there is another story. And it was one that my father probably was hoping would kind of disappear like my sister did. But in fact, what I'm uncovering is that there's family secrets that we think that are going to just be brushed under the rug, right? We've interviewed family members. My dad is the only one who will not interview in front of the camera. And the only way that he's communicated with us is through my co-producer, through emails.
Hmm.
And he claims that she was in fact sold to a family.
Hmm.
And we don't have confirmation of that. We only have his version. He never accepted Rose as his daughter. He always suspected that she was somebody else's biological daughter. And now we are understanding that this was meant to be a secret, and that now that it's coming forward, there's a lot of family dissension.
I think it speaks to life as well. It's a great metaphor, if you would, for the power of truth and how we walk in our truth, because it surfaces. It is something that will come to the forefront. Many of us are attempting to put a cap on who we are and what our purpose is on this earth. And through it, there's so many other things that come about. But to see where Bernie's journey has brought you, where your journey has brought you, is pretty inspiring, pretty amazing. I remember looking at the trailer where Joe said, your husband, and I'm paraphrasing here, I wonder if she was going crazy, right? And sometimes in life, that's what's going on, though. Like, it takes that type of being that radical with pursuing the truth that's required for so many other things to start and play. So I really, really do appreciate what you're doing. I look forward to see the version of Finding Rose. It sounds as though it's part 1 and 2 that's going to be in there, right?
Well, it'll be all combined at this point. That's
Okay.
part of the story, actually, of Finding Rose, is that Finding Rose has become more of a symbol of, that through life, in order for this beautiful flower to bloom, it does require getting through some thorns. And I think that the story ultimately is that these family secrets, as long as we get through them, I think it's going to heal the family karma and also the generations that could be impacted. And I think of the saying about the sins of the father revisited on their sons. In this case, it's the children. And if we are able to have the courage to come forward and tell truth, because there's a lot of shame and guilt and regret in that energy and that family karma that needs releasing. And I think once that's done, and that's going to be, more of a legacy that we can leave for our generations to come. Our grandchildren's children can be talking about this. And really there could be so much healing. And as others are learning about our story, that their healing can also begin in their family.
I love that. It's so important. Building on the right foundation is going to last a lot longer than, again, what we've seen occurred, right? Which is, the untruth and how that falls. So, Berni, oh my, I do appreciate you so much. In closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Oh, well, I'm so thrilled to be part of this again. What you're doing, Angel, is amazing. You are amazing. And please give my best to Amanda and your beautiful family. I'm so thrilled to connect with you today.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Again, BerniSlowey.com is where we can go to get more information, yeah?
Yes, Berni is no E at the end. Berni, E-R-N-I, Slowey.com.
Love it. Berni Slowey, again, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. This podcast is produced by Podedits. Visit podedits.com for professional podcast publishing.